It's the mid-90s, and kids across Europe are ecstatic. They finally have their very own Disneyland, right here in Paris. These two children traveled all the way from Switzerland, having begged their family for ages to bring them. Now, they're finally here, and it's even better than they dreamed. It truly is the happiest place on Earth. The park is alive with excitement, the daily parade making its way down Main Street. It feels like they're living inside a Disney movie. And behind them, standing tall over everything, is the park's iconic centerpiece, Sleeping Beauty's castle, its golden spires shining brightly under the French sun. At first glance, they seem like any other family. Perhaps they're diplomats from East Asia, enjoying a day off in Europe. The siblings watch the parade, but their eyes keep returning to the castle, almost as if they're picturing themselves inside, maybe as part of a royal family. The truth is, they are royalty, but their lives are far from a fairy tale. When the boy grows up, he'll command his own empire. When the girl grows up, she'll become one of the most formidable women in the world. October 2024, Pyongyang, North Korea. A drone crashes in the capital city. It was distributing anti-North Korean propaganda leaflets, likely sent by South Korea, another act in the decades-long conflict between the two formerly unified nations. The regime releases an official statement warning that South Korea can anticipate the worst if they dare to escalate military tensions again. The worst implies nuclear retaliation. The border is now fully armed at wartime strength, on standby to open fire. Nuclear threats from North Korea are nothing new. Kim Jong-un has long threatened to annihilate his neighbor and regularly boasts about the regime's growing nuclear arsenal. What is new, however, is that this particular threat isn't coming from him. It's coming from her, Kim Yo Jong. The world has seen this woman before. In February 2018, at the Winter Olympic Games in South Korea, for the first time in decades, a direct member of the Kim family stepped onto South Korean soil. For 3 days, Kim Yo Jong captivated the media, attending meetings, having lunch with South Korea's President Moon Jae-in, and shaking hands. Unlike her brother, she wasn't intimidating or shouting threats. She was charming, soft-spoken, and diplomatic. For a brief moment, it felt like North Korea might be changing course. Perhaps this was the dawn of a new era, a path to peace. But the Kim Yo Jong people saw in South Korea was just one side of her. Soon, the world would witness the other. North Korea is a country built on control. Every piece of information is meticulously managed by the regime. Outside the DPRK, we like to believe we control our own information. But even as you watch this, data brokers might be collecting and selling your personal data, your home address, phone number, online searches, and even financial information. This data doesn't just lead to spam calls and scam attempts. It could even impact your insurance rates and future job applications. That's where Incog comes in to fight back for you. The service scans the web for your exposed data, sends automated removal requests, and continuously resends them to ensure your data remains deleted. It regularly rescans to prevent data brokers from slipping your info back into circulation. And it lets you track it all on a clean, real-time dashboard. Take back your privacy now at incog.org and regain control over your digital footprint. In North Korea, images and narratives are everything. The Kims aren't just rulers. They are chosen by fate, their power divine. Every policy, every decision, every action of the regime serves one sole purpose: ensuring the Kim dynasty's survival. Kim Yo Jong was born in 1987, or perhaps 1989, it's difficult to verify. In 2011, Kim Jong-il dies unexpectedly. His youngest son, Kim Jong-un, is declared his successor. At his father's funeral, a young woman stands behind him, dressed in black, head tilted, gaze lowered. She weeps like the others, But unlike her brother, no one knows her name. Kim Yo Jong has spent her entire life in the shadows. Even within North Korea, her existence was a secret. No photos, no official mentions, no trace of her in state media. But that changed amidst the chaos of succession. At first, she blended in like any other aide, a quiet, dutiful presence in the background. She carried her brother's clipboard, stood at his side, and held out a heavy crystal ashtray so the chain-smoking dictator could flick away his ashes. To the outside world, she looked like just another assistant. But if you observe closely, she's always there, standing behind him at key moments, ensuring everything goes according to plan. Eventually, analysts started noticing her presence. Intelligence agencies, journalists, and defectors all began asking the same question. Who is she? For Kim Jong-un, at least, she's a close confidant, the only family member he truly trusts. Perhaps that bond was forged during their childhood in Europe. In mid-90s Switzerland, 2 North Korean children enrolled in a private school in Bern. Officially, they were the children of diplomats, but their passport names were fake. No one knew they were actually the heirs to North Korea's most powerful family. Here, they were just 2 foreign kids in a country far from Pyongyang. To their classmates, they seemed like normal children, playing soccer, inviting friends over to their modest apartment, going on ski trips, traveling Europe, and visiting Disneyland. A regular family, except they weren't. Their mother wasn't. Their mother, Kim Yo Jong, their aunt, was sent to care for them in Switzerland. Years later, she defected to the U.S., where she appears to have been living in secrecy ever since. Kim Yo Jong told the Post she traveled from North Korea to care for Kim, his older brother, and younger sister, while they attended this boarding school in Switzerland. And just like their fake mother, one day the 2 fake diplomat kids vanished too, no warnings, no goodbyes. Jong-un and Yo Jong were pulled from school and sent back to North Korea. After her time in Switzerland, Kim Yo Jong studied computer science at Kim Il-sung University in Pyongyang. In 2014, 3 years after taking over as supreme leader, her brother was forced to undergo medical treatment. During that period, Yo Jong took over state duties. By the end of the year, her brother appointed her first deputy director of the party's propaganda and agitation department, a department notorious for controlling every image, every speech, and every news article within North Korea. In 2017, Kim Yo Jong was officially promoted to the Politburo, the ruling elite of North Korea's single-party system. She now held a seat at the highest table of power. But her true talent remained in propaganda. Wherever Kim Jong-un appeared, Kim Yo Jong was there too, not just as his sister, but as his PR manager, his shadow. She would set the stage before he arrived and follow him like a ghost when he left. A year later, for the first time in her life, she took center stage. The sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un became the first member of her family to visit South Korea since the 1950-53 Korean War. Kim Yo Jong was part of a high-level delegation attending the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics. At the 2018 Winter Olympics, she charmed South Korea and the international press. There appeared to be a deliberate strategy behind this. For years, Kim Jong-un had been perceived as a ruthless dictator, a nuclear-obsessed madman. Under Yo Jong's guidance, that image began to soften. She was carefully rebranding her brother's public persona. In 2018, North Korea suddenly seemed to open up. She would be meeting with President Moon on Saturday. If the meeting went well, some experts suggested the visit could lay the groundwork for a possible inter-Korean summit between President Moon and Kim Jong-un. 2 months later, Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in met at the border. They shook hands, they laughed, and applause erupted on both sides. That same year, Donald Trump also met Kim Jong-un in Singapore for a historic summit. The two leaders sat at a large table, signing a momentous document, a joint declaration stating that North Korea intended to denuclearize. Next to Trump was Mike Pompeo, the president's Secretary of State. Next to Kim Jong-un was his sister. She stood there silently, watching as the world dared to believe one of its most feared nuclear powers might actually disarm. But something about her felt off. Her appearances, her gestures, her smile, they all seemed a little too perfect. Every move felt somewhat calculated. And this was just the beginning. There is very limited immediate evidence available, but from what we know, she fulfills the role of communicator with South Korea and the United States. She was also tasked with propaganda functions in the Politburo. That's Ildar Daminov, a political scientist at the Central European University in Vienna. He's spent years studying North Korea and its power structures. Yo Jong appears to be North Korea's top propaganda chief. Since she took over, the way the regime communicates with the world has changed significantly. It became far more flexible and also moved online. There were multiple attempts to leverage Western platforms like YouTube, for instance, to broadcast specific North Korean viewpoints. Under Kim Yo Jong's oversight, North Korean propaganda has gone digital. We've already covered the bizarre world. But Yo Jong's true role now seems to be that of the regime's chief foreign policy mouthpiece. And in North Korean terms, that translates to one thing above all: threats and insults. In 2020, Yo Jong ordered the destruction of the so-called liaison office, an embassy-like facility right on the border of Kizang, a fragile diplomatic connection between the two nations, established just a couple of years prior. Her once polite smile was gone. Her rhetoric grew more resentful and insulting. In 2022, Kim Yo Jong addressed the nation in a rare public speech. It was the first time the North Korean public heard her voice on state media. The event was staged to praise her brother. He had a high fever, but never rested, too concerned about his people. Officials wiped tears from their faces. He had COVID, but according to her, the real culprit wasn't COVID, it was South Korea. When South Korean activists sent leaflets across the border in 2024, Kim Yo Jong allegedly ordered a response in kind, balloons floating back over the DMZ, carrying bags of garbage and feces. In October, she called Ukraine and South Korea vicious dogs, spurred by the United States. And in yet another written statement later that month, her final words were just as blunt. There can never be a change of the line. Have sanction pressure and threat stopped us? They've only made us stronger. If one is not a fool, one should not do a stupid act of expecting our change. North Korea never honored its agreement with the U.S. Instead of dismantling its nuclear program, it doubled down, conducting missile tests in open defiance. Meanwhile, South Korea and the U.S. have long resumed their military exercises. In 2023, then U.S. President Joe Biden formally pledged military support to South Korea should a nuclear war with the North ever break out. North Korea is forging alliances of its own. In June 2024, Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a military pact, vowing mutual military assistance. Soon after, North Korea sent thousands of soldiers to Russia to support its troops in the war against Ukraine. North Korea is now actively inserting itself into a conflict that stretches far beyond its own borders. And while Kim Yo Jong hurls one aggressive threat after another into the world, her brother carefully cultivates the image of a benevolent leader. It's almost as if they've switched roles, or as S. Yunin, author of the only biography on Yo Jong, puts it, he's the bad cop, she's the even worse cop. In 2024, North Korea released a surreal propaganda video that went viral. Cheerful children wave flags, Factory workers clap and sing. Soldiers play violins wildly in an orchestra, while grinning female soldiers leap into the air, giddy with joy. It's a carefully staged and almost hilarious spectacle of devotion. The real North Korea looks quite different. It's a country where people are kidnapped, thrown into prison camps, and publicly executed for the slightest defiance. A country that holds its people hostage within its borders, choosing famine over reform, weapons over survival, missile tests over food supplies, nuclear threats over diplomacy. A brutally ruled nation with at least 50 nuclear warheads at its fingertips. Historically, the Kim dynasty has always passed power from father to son. Kim Jong-un's health is a question mark. He's only in his early 40s, but is rumored to have severe health problems, likely due to his chain smoking, excessive drinking, and suspected heart issues. If something were to happen to him tomorrow, North Korea would be left with no clear successor, at least no male successor. In recent years, North Korea has quietly been introducing another Kim to the public, Jong-un's daughter, Ru-ae. She's been seen at missile launches, standing beside her father, eerily composed for a child. State media calls her the beloved daughter and the respected child. Some analysts believe she's being groomed as the next supreme leader. The thing is, Ru-ae is only 11. If her father were to die unexpectedly, she likely wouldn't be ready to rule. Even though women have taken on more visible, authoritative roles in Kim Jong-un's regime, the country remains deeply patriarchal. Women face systematic abuse, sexual violence, and forced labor, often at the hands of state officials. 70% of defectors are women. Most flee into China, where many are trafficked or exploited, because escaping North Korea is nearly impossible. If a woman were to succeed Kim Jong-un, it would likely be one with the power, experience, and authority to do the job, his sister. Once a soft-spoken figure in the background, Kim Yo Jong has become one of the most powerful and feared figures in North Korea. Under her watch, the regime has learned to manipulate its global image more carefully than ever before. But her power isn't just about controlling narratives. By 2021, Yo Jong has reportedly followed her brother's path. According to multiple sources, she personally ordered the execution of high-ranking government officials simply because they annoyed her. But perhaps the most dangerous thing about her is that she is a direct line to Kim Jong-un, the one person who sits at the nuclear button and trusts her judgment more than anyone else's. No one knows just how far she's willing to go.